Hi all, Mike Schienle here, and thanks for dropping by to watch this pair of wedding boxes being made. If you're a regular visitor to this channel, you know my wife is a minister, and her couples often place orders for their wedding items through her to me. In this case, my wife's friends had dropped by, and one of them saw a few boxes that were made for upcoming weddings and wanted a pair, one for each of her kids that were already married. The panels and lids are cut from a smaller slab of white oak, which you see on the CNC. It's about 36 by 15 inches by 2.5 inches. The slab was scarred pretty badly by a chainsaw, but we'll clean that up and make some beautiful wedding boxes out of it. The process of turning a single slab into a pair of boxes takes a pretty standard milling path of flattening, which is what you're watching on the CNC, then resawing to thickness, ripping to width, and cross-cutting to length. We'll go through each of those in the video. I wrote a utility program to generate the flattening passes that you're watching, which is linked in the description. The program takes inputs about the slab dimensions and router bit being used, then tells the CNC to traverse the slab left to right, front to back at an incremental depth, then step down to the next depth in reverse direction. This is repeated until the final specified depth is reached. With these lighter duty CNCs and palm routers with large bits, the depth of cut for a hardwood like white oak is limited to about 1/32 of an inch, which is why you're seeing so many passes taking place. Going beyond that risks burning up the router motor, overheating the router bit, or the CNC servos not moving to the specified location. The nice thing is, while the CNC is working on this white oak, I'm working on some walnut parts for these boxes, which you'll see a little later in the video. After the slab has been flattened, we need to break it down so we can get the panels and tops for our boxes. The first step is cross-cutting the 36-inch board into a pair of 18-inch boards using the table saw. All the panels are about 5.5 inches tall, so we next do a rip cut at 6 inches on the DeWalt table saw, which we will then trim down to final dimensions a little later. That leaves us with a pair of 18-inch by 6-inch by 1.5 inch boards, but we want our boards to be about 5/8 inch thick, and we'll need twice as many boards as we currently have cut. We'll move to the Grizzly bandsaw to resaw our 1.5 inch boards into a pair of 5/8 inch boards. That means we have about 1/8 inch extra to work with, and the bandsaw blade will remove about 1/24 of an inch in the process. So skipping the details, we have about a 1/16 inch margin of error for this cut. The resaw process leaves a slightly rough surface, so we need to flatten the interior sides that were next to the bandsaw blade. We'll head back to the CNC for that. We'll be removing about 1/16 of an inch to get to our final 5/8 inch thickness. We'll redo the previous steps of cross-cutting and ripping panels, but for the lids this time. This is the same steps, just with different dimensions, so I'll let you listen to the machines instead of me for a bit. We're done with the lids now, so let's get the panels cut to their final dimensions. The front and back panels are 11.5 inches long, and the side panels are 5 inches long. All panels are 5.5 inches tall. I try to grain match the edges on all the panels. You'll see I'm running panels through as a box set instead of all the same size, just so I can keep track of the pieces a little easier. Now that the panels are cut, let's talk about the joinery for a moment. We'll be joining the white oak panels to walnut posts with sliding dovetails. Walnut provides a beautiful dark contrast to white oak and is used for the posts and bottoms of the boxes. The dovetail slots will be cut into the walnut posts, and the sliding dovetail tails will be created on the oak panels. As with the panels, I first cut the post to a rough dimension, then to a final dimension. This gives me a moment to select the best interior and exterior faces for the posts, as well as to identify any possible issues with knots or splits that would have an effect on the dovetails. Also, these are common components for wedding boxes, so I tend to cut additional sets when I can. As mentioned before, the oak panels are 5.5 inches tall, and we're cutting the walnut post to 6 inches. The additional ½ inch in the post is used as the feet of the box. This is my first CNC, the Next Way Piranha FX. It's about 1/10 the size and not nearly as fast as my Onefinity CNC, but it has a couple features that still come in handy. The first is the aluminum T-track bed. Most of the time this is covered with a small sheet of MDF, but when I need something repeatable, this T-track and the Rockler stops and clamps are tough to beat. The stop at the front left of the wood prevents the wood from moving beyond the rails. The two clamps, one to the immediate right and the other diagonally at the back right, push the wood against the rails to prevent any movement. When each cut is done, I just lift the levers of the clamps, remove and replace the piece of wood, then toggle the clamp levers back in place and rerun. Since I'm working on two boxes with two faces for each post that need to have slots cut in them, followed by a repeated pass with a different bit, that's 16 repeated alignments for a 1/4 inch spiral bit and another 16 for the dovetail bit. I'm actually running two variations of programs for left and right sides, but the alignment process is the same. The previous pass of the 1/4 inch spiral bit running down the middle, actually offset 1/16 inch to the left or right of the middle, is to remove the bulk of material for the dovetail bit that is now in the CNC. Dovetail bits have a substantially wider profile at the end of the bit than the shaft of the bit. This causes a lot of stress on the bit as well as the router, so the material removal step is recommended to prevent any issues. The 1/16 inch offset allows a larger center section between the interior corners where the two cuts start to merge. Basically, it allows a smaller post to be used while still maintaining all the strength of the sliding dovetail joint. We're cutting the sliding dovetail tails into the panels that will fit into the dovetail slots of the posts. The program runs by removing a layer of wood from the outer edge and moving inward while repeating the cut until the tail fits perfectly in the slot. Each time I run this, there is a slight variation in the depth of layers that needs to be removed from the tails. This varies based on wood species, like oak tends to leave a fuzzier surface than maple or cherry, and red oak leaves a fuzzier surface than white oak. So the best way to check the fit is with a little bit of trial and error, starting with a wide tail and removing 1 or 2 thousandths of an inch until the fit is perfect. In this case, what I thought would be a little wide and would be my starting point ended up fitting just right. And here's another feature I like about this little CNC. The Y-axis extends about 1.5 inches beyond the front of the bed. This allows you to clamp boards vertically to the front of the bed, and the router cuts the edge of the board without the bed being in the way. This is excellent for things like cutting dovetails, box joints, or finger joints. With the dovetail tails and slots cut, I'm able to do a dry fit and determine the exact dimensions of the bottom. Since the bottom is only held in place with the friction fit of the dovetail joints, I need to wait until I can do a dry fit before I can get the correct size. When I purchased this board as a glue-up, it didn't occur to me that it had used loose tenons for alignment. My original plan had been to use it for coasters, but once I saw the tenons, that plan went away. However, with completely concealed edges in a box, the beautifully done glue-up works great in this case. I'm adding some chamfers to the entire box, including the posts, panels, and top, using a little block plane. I bought a smoothing plane kit from Hock tools a few years ago and enjoyed putting it together as well as using it. Shortly after that, I purchased their sets of digital plans for planes and began making planes based on their internal dimensions for their blades and with bodies that fit comfortably in your hands. This is one of the models I made. Wooden hand planes are great tools, surprisingly efficient, and provide a welcome bit of nostalgia as well. The box has been completely put together, and we're back to the little CNC to make use of the Y-axis overhang capability for drilling barrel hinge holes in the base of the box. With that, we'll be able to attach the lid to it. And we're back to the Onefinity CNC to drill the corresponding barrel hinge holes into the lid. We're adding the bride and groom names along with their wedding date and a set of 3D rings to the box lids. We also added their kids' names and birthdays to the undersides for both couples. The masking is used to allow carved areas to be painted or stained without affecting the uncarved areas. A sealer is used to prevent the paint or stain from bleeding into the adjoining fibers. Shellac, oils, and urethanes are common sealants. I've had good success with both shellac and oils, in this case Minwax Antique Oil finish. It is one of my favorite finishes for signs and boxes where the primary use will be indoor display. This is the Minwax Antique Oil finish mentioned earlier. It goes on easily with a brush and dries overnight. While you're seeing this applied to just the carved masking at the moment, this was just to prep the lids for painting. Once the painting was done, the antique oil finish was applied to the boxes inside and out. A very light sanding with 320 grit is done between coats, with 3 coats total applied. And here's the hunter green paint the client requested. With the antique oil finish both under and over the paint, it came out fantastic, with a rich emerald color that changed from black to green when light reflected on it.